Hello YouTube, Tobimaru here, and on this video I'll be talking about itemization on ARPGs. And this is a follow-up for another video that I made where I covered the Moonbeast's new ARPG or upcoming ARPG that they will launch sometime next year. Moonbeast is formed by previous Diablo and Diablo II developers, and the features that they announced, they look promising. And they also have a bunch of blog posts talking about the design philosophy about itemization on their game. And that's what I'll be talking about today. I'll go through all those blog posts. They talk about charms and base items and ILvl, everything like that. And I'll be reading them and commenting on them and giving my perspective as an ARPG player since the Diablo I days. So I'll be covering that. If you like this type of content, please subscribe to my channel, like and comment down below. I'll have the links for all of the blog posts down there, so check them out and check my previous video if you haven't. So let's get into it. Now let's get in depth into the itemization philosophy for this game. These blog posts are mostly philosophical in nature, so game design philosophy. And we get more in depth about what it feels like Diablo II. To replicate the feel of a system, you have to first of all understand how it works. And what about it is good. Without that, any fixes or even improvements you try to make risks throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But itemization is a complicated system with tons of moving parts. It's very hard to get it right. For sure. Thankfully, we have Erich Schaefer on the team, every bit as much as David Breivik is the father of Diablo. Erich is the father of ARPG itemization, among many other aspects of ARPG design. Without him, we wouldn't have random items at all. So it's good for them to have the creator of random items in the team. I think we can be optimistic about that. I'm sure you'd rather hear from him directly, but Eric's got that close-lipped Germanic thing going on, so I'm gonna try to write down all the things I've learned from him. And he'll step in and correct me if I'm wrong, and hopefully you'll get a sense of what Moonbeast's philosophy towards itemization is. Topic 1. Systems where items generally scale with high levels suck platypus balls. Unless you're a modder, you might not be familiar with the term high level. In short, it's the level of the item which is based on the level of the monster, or chest, breakable, etc. Dropping it, which is based on the level of the dungeon area, elite, champion and boss monsters simply grant a bonus to high level. Okay, so in Diablo 2 you don't even see a high level stat on your items. What's it good for? High level is one of the primary factors in determining what type of item drops. Are you getting scale mail or Arcane plate? And along with the base type, it factors into what sort of affixes can appear for magic and rare items, or if it's a set or unique item, which exact one it will be. So in Diablo 2 it doesn't determine level requirements to equip, damage, offense cost, etc. And the thesis of this post is that in the vast majority of cases it shouldn't. Doing so is a common mistake. It's lazy design, and it can very much ruin itemization, and it does so on multiple facets. Let's imagine that we're lazy designers, we don't want to create 12 different daggers for our game. Why not just make it so that we can find a level 1 dagger and a level 2 dagger and a level 10 dagger, all the way up to a level 100 dagger. Then you define a curve for the base damage, and each level of dagger does incrementally more damage than the previous. Simple, right? Same logic can apply to affixes, uniques, etc. Other than the obvious concern that it's flat and boring and trivializes the rich history of small blades that were created by all sorts of different cultures for all sorts of different purposes throughout history, it also kills your item game in a far more insidious fashion. Let's say I'm happily playing through some random game that isn't Diablo 2 and I'm fighting some boss named Pinkelfart on demonic difficulty. So they are talking about Diablo 2, about Pindleskin, and it's not demonic difficulty, but it's hell difficulty. I killed a bugger and ding, a unique golden Kupresh drops. This isn't my first rodeo and I'm super jazzed. I know it's gonna be a Grief's Annihilator, and those are super rare. Until I remember that this isn't Diablo 2 and Pinkelfart is only level 87 and the Grief's Annihilator is only valuable if it's level 100. Because let's face it, in this game all the best items are level 100 because it scales based on high level. Kind of a letdown, yeah? Yeah, it makes sense. So if if you are target farming something, you are killing bosses to get items, and you get a lower level item than you want to, and you have to. It doesn't make sense to farm items before you reach max level because the stats will only be good at max level. Yeah, and that sucks. You want to get best in slot gear before you reach the last few levels of your character. It gets even worse if everything scales based on my level, because I'm on a level 75 right now, and what's the point? Nothing I find has any chance of being truly good. Please just get this part of the game over with. And that's also why the answer to this conundrum isn't just get level 100, that's the end game and it's all that matters. Because the game is in the details, it's in the journey, and everything matters. And if levels 1 to 99 don't matter, then why have them at all? The pressure from the players will be to cut that part of the game out, or at least make it as short as possible. Yeah, and this happens with Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Diablo 4 as well. We want to get to the last difficulty as soon as possible because only the best items will drop on the last difficulty. And everything else is just an annoying thing you have to do to start to play the game. And yeah, that really sucks. The leveling part should be good and rewarding in its own way. Maybe you can get a level, maybe you can get an item at level 10 that you will use when you reach max level, and you are waiting for it, or another a new item to create another class because you can't use. I think that's fun, right? And at that point, you've spent 90% of your development effort on building a part of the game that no one wants to play for long. Yeah, that happens. Wait, what if it's a big open world game if the areas don't scale to my level? Doesn't it mean that a lot of areas become unimportant in the end game? Yes, that's true, but as it is, I don't think the solution is just go around scaling everything everywhere all at once. That's what Diablo 4 did. There's more than one way to skin the cat. What psycho came up with that idiom anyway, and why do I know it? So our philosophy is not to do any of the above. We're gonna have different items with defined stats. Not every base dagger will be the same. Some will be longer than others, some will be faster. Maybe some daggers will have better armor penetration, and others might do cold damage. What dagger do you want? It depends on your build. Look for the base type that is what you want and craft it to something good. Happy gaming and have fun. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, one thing that I miss from Diablo 2 is the base items. I think PoE does it. I don't know PoE at all, but I think you can get base items and then transform them. Let me know if I'm wrong. But I really like the concept of getting a white item, a good white item with the damage rolls up there, and then you will craft it and make it better as you level up. So imagine that you get some materials to level it up to a magic item. And you are level 13 and you can do that. You have enough materials to add an affix to that. And then when you're level 40, you have some gem that you can socket into it and it makes it even better. I really like systems where the gear levels up with you and it's just not trash when you get them later. And you can still get a better base later in the game, and you have to consider, what do I do? Do I spend my resources on this new one, or do I keep using my old one, even though it has less base damage, but it has more affixes and there's a legendary gem on it? Or, yeah, I think that makes it so that you make choices when you are playing the game. That's really valuable. So this is the second blog post, a little bit on item tiers and a little bit on runes. The original Diablo had 3 tiers of items: normal, magic, and unique. This corresponded roughly with normal magic and artifacts in pen and paper RPGs, as well as CRPGs of the time. Diablo's crowning innovation, thanks to Eric, was random affixes on magic items. Diablo 2 expanded on this with rares, gold, and set, green, items, and later rune words. Rares were yellow, not gold. And later rune words, black. It also added variation to white items by adding the inferior superior qualities, sockets, and etherealness. Some of these qualities, sockets for rune words or etherealness in certain cases, carry white items throughout the life cycle of the game, while others, most notably inferior, are just for flavor, and if the game had a loot filter, would be among the first things to get eliminated. Yeah, that's the thing, loot filters. Let's talk about that. Do we really want loot filters in the games? I think that's a lazy way of fixing a problem that shouldn't be there. Why does a game need to have a separate option to hide items that drop? It doesn't make sense to me. If you want to hide them, why? They should not drop at all, right? Or if they drop, at least they should get disenchanted or converted in currency. But if you think about that, why not just get the currency, right? I don't like loot filters. I think they're essential in some games because I think the games are badly designed, to be honest. When we get the shower of items on Diablo 2 or Diablo 3 and we don't care about any of them, why are they dropping? Just to see golden lights on the screen? I don't think that feels good. It would feel good if we would get some nice materials for upgrading, some items that would matter, that we actually can use, or to make a different character. I'm not a fan of the Diablo 3 system where you only get, or mostly get, the gear for your character that you are playing. I much prefer Diablo 2's where you can be playing a barbarian and you get a really nice bow and you will make an Amazon to use it. I think that's good, and it gives replayability to the whole game and not just the end game. You are incentivized to level up more characters. I think that's a good thing. So yeah, loot filters, I don't like them. I think the game should be smart enough to give the items the player wants. And yeah, maybe you can configure it like if an item drops that's not for your build, it can be auto-destroyed or auto-salvageable or something like that. Maybe that can work because you are getting something out of the item that you don't want. But you might be missing a piece of a new playstyle that you don't know about. So yeah, I think it's difficult to balance this out. Successor ARPGs often follow Diablo 2's lead by adding even more item tiers. But to what end? If the only tier you care about is the highest, then you end up just filtering out the rest. They no longer add anything to the game, relegating them to the status of inferior whites from Diablo 2. Maybe they sell for a little more, but the only game where I remember actually getting exciting by the potential gold value of an item is Ganorma's Sword. I don't know this one. Yeah, this happens on Diablo 4 a lot. See, on Diablo 4, you only care about the ancestral gear. When you are on the second to last difficulty, you are getting sacred gear, and that you'll only use it for like 10 or 20 levels max. As soon as you get into the hardest difficulty, every single one of those sacred items is trash. And if it's just to sell them, it's just annoying to go back into town, sell everything, go back into killing monsters. That's a gameplay loop that I don't think anyone likes, right? Town is lava. You don't want to spend much time there. You want to be out there killing monsters. And if you have to salvage them all manually or sell them, that's a bad experience. For our game, we want every tier of item to be potentially interesting. Note that this is different from every item being interesting, which is neither achievable nor desirable. This is a delicate balancing act, one that we didn't always get right with Diablo 2 and its expansion, so let's hope we've learned something over the years. Yeah. This post will be mostly about the most humble of tiers, whites. I'll get to the other tiers later. Okay, so they want whites to matter. That's a good thing. I don't want to get into our setting quite yet, but what can I say? What I can say is that elements, as in the platonic elements of air, earth, fire, and water, will feature prominently, though we'll have 6 rather than 4. So this is a good thing to know. So they'll have 6 elements, maybe 6 resistances, something like earth, water, fire, and the air, and then light and darkness, or gloom can be one because they have gloom in the screenshots. We don't know. Every piece of white gear will therefore be tied to an element. For example, a Kanjar is a dagger of elemental fire, doing somewhere between 16 to 28 to 19 to 31 points of fire damage, depending on specific item quality. A Sax is a dagger of elemental water or ice, doing somewhere between 18 to 26 to 21 to 29 points of water or cold damage. An Aska is a cap of elemental air with somewhere between 7, 12 air or wind armor. Okay, they are not talking about, they are not calling them resistances, they are calling them wind armor or air armor. Obviously, gear of a particular element will be most commonly found on shards, levels associated with that element. So you're much more likely to find a Kanjar on a lava world than an ice one. So this is really great for target farming. So I want to have a fire mage. I want to like my staff to have a lot of fire damage, right? So I'll be farming fire levels. But to do that, maybe I need to have like water staff so I can kill fire monsters faster, so I can get the gear that I want faster. I think that's cool. So you'll have to change your playstyle to farm different types of items, and I think elements can bring that to the game. So I think that's another wise design decision on them. White items are the purest expression of their element. Binding them with non-fire enchantments while adding abilities often lessens their core self. Note, however, that socketing them with gems or jewels doesn't diminish them. For one, they were designed for that purpose, and for another, unlike enchantments, they're embedded outside of the item rather than within it. Okay, from this, I think they meant that you can take the gems out, gems or jewels out of the items. They are separate modifiers. I don't know. If your goal is to do the maximum amount of fire damage with a single weapon or skill, find the highest possible quality base, own it with enchantments of pure fire, socket it with gems and runes to get a few extra minor abilities. It probably won't enable any interesting builds, but it'll do the job it was meant for. What about rune words? They're one of the key reasons why whites can have value in Diablo 2. I'll be the first to admit that the precise implementation of rune words in Diablo 2 was far from perfect. But I'm going to argue that the core idea of runes and rune words is a very good one. Yeah, I think so too. I like rune words, but I don't like that you have to go to a website to know them. And I don't like that you can make a rune word at level 12 or level 20 that will get you to endgame. So the balance is really important. I think you want rune words to be balanced. So the easier ones can't have too much power. Otherwise, you break the game completely. You make spirits and items like that. For one, the runes themselves create a hierarchy of order that adds something good to both the drop system and to trading. Each rune exists in a specific linear hierarchy. Part of this is due to rarity, and the other is the ability to convert runes to higher or lower runes at defined exchange rate, which admittedly could use a bit of tuning. High runes are always valuable finds, whether because they can be used to create an item you want, convert it to another rune you want, or trade it for something you want. Having this sort of relatively simple hierarchy greatly benefits the game. The runes themselves have very little downside. Yeah, this is what happens on Diablo 2. Okay. Rune words were more problematic. First off, having to go outside the game to discover the exact rune combinations to make a rune word is jank as hell. That's what I just said. Secondly, rune words should have all the trappings of uniques in terms of appearance, both icons and in-world, and they didn't. We were on a tight production budget when making LOD, don't ask me why they weren't on the schedule. Yeah, I think if you make a rune word, it should be a unique item, of course. Finally, many of the rune words were designed without a complete understanding of exactly how to fit in the game. First problem is easily fixed. It's not hard at this point to create a system to discover rune words in the game. We even have ideas how to mix it up in interesting ways that require more description of other facets of the game that I don't want to get into just yet. Yeah, you can have like library of runes, right? Where you can check what they do, how to craft them. Yeah, that's you can easily fix that in the game. Second issue is harder but requires a little sweat. The third issue is more difficult. The first step is to define the goals and philosophy for rune words, which is something we never did when we first conceived them. And so I want them to do so here. Rune words should pretty much never be best in slot. I almost left out words pretty much. But remember that exceptions are a good thing, TM. And a couple shades rune words that use the highest end runes would be okay. And to do this, I should qualify that there's a huge difference between best in slot for everyone, best in slot for a specific class, and best in slot for a specific build. They should never come very close to doing the most damage or providing the most armor. In general, rune words are easier to obtain than uniques, and as such are a good way to unlock builds that you want to make harder to unlock than simply putting a skill point somewhere, but not so hard that players need to find or trade for a very specific unique. In many cases, they can exist in a space where they act as slightly worse versions of some unique items, easier to obtain but not quite as good. Possibly just in terms of stats, but better if they're missing a bit of functionality. I think rune words should be alternatives, or should be items that will fit into a build that you don't have the perfect best in slot yet. And they should be dynamic as well. So I think they should fit most builds and do generic stuff and not like be build defining. So imagine that you want to make a fire mage, but you are missing a set piece for the helmet, for example. But there's a rune word that makes a helmet that's like that maybe has some of those affixes, but it's less powerful. And you use it until you get the final unique that you need or set item that you need. I think rune words could be that. However, the balance isn't easy. If rune words aren't desirable enough, the value of runes are threatened. And if they don't have value, then all of the good mechanics that you get from them won't materialize. To counter that, we want to give runes value in many more places. They should have interesting utility when socketed by themselves, and they're ideal as ingredients in a large number of crafting recipes. Yeah, this is a good idea. So if you imagine that you get the best in slot helmet for your fire mage, you don't need those runes anymore, right? So you unsocket the rune, or you sell it, and you sell it, or you craft I don't know, a portal to the cow level with it, or to access a different type of content, or to a fire level, something like that. Or it gives you a chance to get a random item, or I don't know. There are multiple possibilities. I like that. I like this idea. I've wondered, of course, a bit. Back to whites, they should be useful. For our game, they can be used as a base to create items, particular items that do one thing and do it well, and as a base for various types of crafting for rune words. They will be typed to an element and can have sockets, specifically more than one socket. What about etherealness? Neither durability nor etherealness are concepts in our game right now, but one or more similar rare attributes that can appear on white or potentially tier items would be nice. And I look forward to hearing your ideas. Okay, I don't like ethereal items. I don't like durability. So I think it's really good that they are not considering them for their game, because it's just annoying. Durability is just annoying. You just need to go to town, click on an NPC, and everything is good. Or if it's ethereal, well, you might find an item that you are enjoying playing, and then it breaks, and you are just sad. There's no benefit from it, unless there was a way to fix that item, right? To make it not ethereal. So I think that's a good idea for them not to have durability or ethereal items. I think that's really good. But they want to have more attributes that can appear on whites or other items. That would be nice. I don't know. I think ethereals are bad, but maybe like I think PoE has corrupted items. So something like that could be good. Like you could drop an item or cursed items, I think it's the name. I'm not sure. you could drop an item that is cursed and like it has a great benefit. Like it can even go further than most affixes. So instead of the max movement speed is 20% on an item, but if it's cursed, it can be 30%, for example. But it will have a conditional, something bad for your character. So maybe you lose, I don't know, 1% of your health every second you're walking or something. Some effects that will make those items not as good, but if you can fix them with other items in your build, they can be good. So yeah, cursed items I think are cool. In this day and age, it takes a lot of courage to ship an ARPG without a loot filter, and I'm not so brave as that. Yeah, I don't agree with this. I talked about this before. Try to give players the items that they want. Don't make them configure things so they don't see trash. Or at least if it's a loot filter, it's not for you to not see items. Make that those items are instantly destroyed or sold or salvageable, and that you get something from it. At least make it that, so it doesn't feel like you're not seeing things. It's not really immersive when there are items dropping. You see them on the floor, but they're not there, right? I don't like them. So if they, like, I think on Diablo 3 season 28, they did a good thing with Altar of Torments. I don't recall the name, but your pet would destroy the items that you found and disenchant them into materials for crafting. That is good. That is a good option. You just all the magic items, all the whites would instantly be destroyed, and it would be picked up like gold. That's a good thing. But don't make it so that destroy all the white items. I think it should be configurable. Maybe destroy all the swords because I'm a sorceress and I only use scepters, and I don't need swords. Something like that, because you want players to find the base items. Yeah. But doing that might also prevent players to play other classes. So if you're a sorceress, I don't want to see swords. I'll never see a sword. I won't get to see a really best in slot base great sword that would be really cool for my barbarian. Then I won't see it. Don't want to play barbarian because I don't have an item ready to go. So please consider that. So the third blog post about itemization, ABC, won't you sing with me? User LVon posted nobody remembers crafted items, and so we must respond. In this post, I'll share some of our preliminary thoughts on crafting, specifically gear crafting. Crafting other types of stuff will be possible too, but I won't be covering that yet. Note that crafting is still in the early design phase, so there's plenty of room for community feedback and discussion. Designs. Crafting actions are based on designs, also known as recipes, which you need to unlock individually. Designs can drop from mobs, but are more often found in things like bookshelves and chests. You may also get them as caster rewards, and they also occasionally show up at vendors. Unlike most loot, they are most instance drops. This is necessary because they're tailored to the ones that you already know. However, unbound designs will occasionally drop to promote a bit of trading. They are on use pickup, except for the unbound ones. Don't take up inventory space. They will be tailored to the ones that you already know. So there will be some kind of progression on the crafting, right? You will find recipes and then you'll be farming more recipes for the things that you already know. And if you don't want to invest on it, maybe they won't drop. Difficult to know without knowing how the crafting will work. Can you like specify on crafting staves so instead of swords or amulets or jewelry in general? I don't know. It would be cool if you could specialize. So I'll be a jeweler and I'll be leveling up my jewelry crafting thing. I'll spend some materials there, get more recipes, more rare on the world because I leveled it up, but I won't get as much for armor, for example. And I can sell the unbound for armor to other player and trade it for jewels or something. Each design specifies what type they can be applied to, necessarily materials, and a small group of related affixes that can apply. There will be designs for all the non-unique affixes in the game. Okay, base. For gear crafting, you start with a white item that has sockets. The number of sockets is an indicator of crafting potential. Materials. You don't want a gazillion materials. There are just two basic types of materials within the crafting system: elemental cores and runes. For the most part, they can be stacked. Elemental cores mostly drop from mobs and are typed to an element and come in 9 tiers. So it will be like gems, right? For example, a Cinder is a tier 1 fire core and an Ember is a tier 2 fire core. Elite and champion monsters can drop noble cores and bosses can drop unique cores, which are tied directly to the specific boss that dropped it. Non-unique cores are stackable, but unique cores are not. Cores can also be combined to form higher tier cores or split to form lower tier ones. Unique cores have both fixed and random affixes from a specific pool tailored to the boss from which they drop. Oh, that's cool. So you could get like a boss skill, a really cool boss that has like a meteor shower that freezes, and you could get that unique affix to your item, and now your meteor showers will also freeze. That would be cool. A core can be socketed directly into gear and provide a benefit tied to their element. This benefit depends on the type of item in which the core is socketed. For example, a Cinder socketed into a Kanjar, a fire elemental dagger, may increase the dagger's base fire damage by a small percentage. When socketed into a water elemental axe, it will add flat fire damage. When socketed into a fire element, wand will add bonus damage to fire skills. And when socketed into fire element chest, armor will increase fire armor by a small percentage. Okay, so I think what you'll want is to stack as much of your main elemental damage as you want on your weapons, right? So if you're a fire mage, put all the cinders there. And on the armor pieces, you want to vary for different, for the other elements too, so you can resist all of them, right? I think that's fair to say. In general, it's very inexpensive to non-destructively remove socketed items from a piece of gear, generally just a small amount of gold. That is good. I think it should be free. Don't make me pay gold to change my build, please. Because we want to encourage players to experiment with socketing stuff freely. So if you want encourage players to experiment, let them experiment. Why do you need to spend gold to remove a gem or a core or whatever? Or to change skills? Just let the players do what they want, please. That's what I'm asking. Cores are primary components in crafting designs. In general, cores are used in designs that apply affixes related to their element and tier, but will generally have higher number when crafted than when simply socketed. Unlike socketing, designs are less restrictive with regards to item type. For example, if you want to apply bonus melee damage to a wand, knock yourself out. Okay, so you can use cores as a socket and cores as a recipe, and you will make items with them, and you will craft items with them, and they are not so strict as the elemental damage. Runes. Like cores, runes can be socketed directly into gear, but provide a benefit that is less tied to particular elements. A specific combination of runes socketed into an item can form a rune word, which will have a unique set of abilities tied to that rune word. I can't reiterate enough that this time around we intend to take extra care that low and mid-level rune words especially are not overtuned. That's what I talked about. I agree. Runes are also primary components in crafting designs. Nice. Crafting basics. Forging crafted items simply involves taking a non-unique item with an empty socket and the necessary materials for the desired design and applying them at the crafting vendor. Each design applies a random affix chosen from a small pool tied to that design, either consuming a socket or replacing an existing affix of the same group. There are no failures. This is incredible. No failures. Yeah, they do nothing. Don't make failings. Noble and unique cars may be components of specific designs that call for them. Or they can be used as kickers in regular designs to improve their roles. Oh, okay. So if you want to, like, you rolled an item that has lower crit chance, you want to make it higher, use a noble or unique card to reroll that. That's a good idea. Once an item has been forged once, its color changes to distinguish it from uncrafted items. As long as it has additional empty sockets, it can continue being forged with additional designs. An item that has had all of its sockets consumed is baked and cannot be crafted further. As a creator, you may even choose to customize it with a name. I was going to say that. So the first thing, nobody remembers crafted items. Yeah. Make it so that you can name them. That is really cool. I think the default name should be cool, but renaming the items, and imagine that you will level up an item, you will craft an item that you found at level 1, and you will take it into level 40 or into endgame, or rerolling it or something. Yeah, it would be cool to have a name, and for that item to be tradable and not be bound to your character. I think would also be a good thing. So when you trade it to someone, I think them receiving an item that has a name is much more personal, and you can name specific things for your friends, make jokes with it. Yeah, this is incredible. I think this is a really, really nice feature. Crafting events. Occasionally, special events will pop up that allow for one-time crafting opportunities. These events can be tied to randomized quests, special encounters, shrines, magical tomes, etc. That's about it for now. We want to create a very simple and easy to understand system that wouldn't require immediate materials but would have nearly unlimited depth. With this system, you can imagine that the full gamut of non-unique items and even many unique ones are potentially craftable, as I listen to your thoughts. So if a unique has a socket, you can craft it, right? That's good, I think. While writing this, I dreamed up a potential cool unique item, Ostens Purifier. Is a box in which you can place an elemental card. Killing mobs of the related element will empower the card within, eventually increasing its tier. Pretty cool, right? I love this job. Yeah, that's a good idea. Nice. So this was blog post 3. Where is the 4th one? Okay, I couldn't find the itemization number 4. So, Moonbeast, if you are watching this, please fix your numbering system or release the 4th blog post, please. So if you really like the charm system from Diablo II Lord of Destruction, you're welcome to mod them in. Okay, so there will be no charms. That's what it's saying, right? But for our core game, I think we'll give characters dedicated charm slots. Oh, okay. So there will be charms with charm slots. So like Last Epoch, I think. Maybe 3 to start with an extra slot per difficulty level, if we even have those. Could be that you get 2 shrunken head slots when you unlock the Witch Doctor 3. Or maybe you've unlocked the Exorcist 3 and you get an extra Holy Symbol slot for each rank you have in that skill option. Or perhaps you've picked the Kabbalist 3 and you don't get any extra charm slots, but your Golem gets a bunch of Glyph slots. Note, all these trees are made up on the spot and aren't all the skill trees that we're contemplating. Okay. Pretty okay with leaving out different charm sizes too. What else can I say about charms? What is their purpose? Obviously, with the Lord of Destruction system, you were meant to make a choice between quality of life, inventory space, and power, but let's set that aside. For the most part, the purpose of charms is pretty simple. Give players more stuff to find. Unlike other gear, you can equip several of them, which makes the choice of which charm to replace when you find a new one have a very different textural feeling from the choice you make with regards to most other gear. There's a hint of it with rings, but it's much more pronounced with charms. These differences in choice style are good. Individually, they should be much less powerful than any other type of gear. There probably aren't a lot of charms that will do much to alter your playstyle or your build. However, the little bonuses you get to stats or resistances that you can get from charms helps to smooth out kinks in equipment loadouts, letting you hit a particular breakpoint with a greater variety of gear. I hope do not have any categorical plus skill charms, even unique ones. I'm not even sure I'd want charms that give single skill bonuses. There's a balance to that, and maybe they'll show up on class-specific charms. We'll have to see. I guess I can also see a place for charms that slightly tweak individual skills in various unusual ways that are less directly tied to power, like changing their VFX color. I don't really like that. I think charms shouldn't interact with skills at all. I don't think there should be class-specific charms. I think charms should be general and offer general stuff like movement speed, like lightning radius, like what else? Reduced teleport time. Stuff like that, like magic find, for example. That would be a cool thing to have on charms. And those things should be unique to charms, in my opinion. So the affixes of charms shouldn't be the same as the other items. They should be completely different. And should have like, you could have like a unique charm that will destroy gear, will salvage gear when you get it, if it's on your loot filter. Or it will sell them, or something like that. Or it will transform the items that you find that you don't want into mana or health, or I don't know. But I don't think they should give stats. I don't agree that they should be like small fixes for your build, for your breakpoints. I think you should be able to have that on your gear only, your main gear. Because you just have suboptimal gear and you're not incentivized to find better gear because you have a charm that fixes it for you. So yeah, I agree that they should tweak things that are not skill based or not build defining. I think Magic Find and other similar affixes do really well on charms. That's what I said. And the game could expand on the plus find affixes with a greater variety of options. Oh, that's a good idea. You really want class constraint drops? Why not have a version of item find that makes it more likely for you to find class items? Or charms that increase the number of shrines you encounter, treasure goblins, quality of loot from breakables, flow rate of gloom when you're present, light radius, affixes that don't really belong on standard gear and can find a home in charms. Categorically, I think we can say that charms can be used to affect your play experience, with less of a direct emphasis on your character's power. I completely agree with this. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Charms should give extra stuff, not power, not plus to skills, not plus to strength, not cooldown reduction, crit chance, stuff like that. And things that affect your surroundings. I think that's cool. Like you can walk on water with a charm. Imagine that. Imagine that you have a charm that allows that, or that allows you to swim without drowning, or to walk on lava, or I don't know, jump higher. You can jump 2 blocks instead of 1 with that charm. Maybe those things should be affixed for boots, but I don't know. I think it'd be cool to have them on charms. Finally, it's probably obvious, but an interesting game around charm crafting would be nice. Unlike the crafting system I outlined for gear, where you're pretty much putting specific affixes on items, I think the charm crafting system should probably be more random, similar to crafting in existing Diablo games. There's something that feels very right about going to a charm seller and buying a grab bag of unidentified charms. Yeah, I agree with this. Charms should be lottery. You should be spending your obols or your gamble currency on charms. And they should have like a random, like a high new number of possibilities. So it's always a new thing that you can get. Like a mini loot box. Great. So this was 5. Now let's go to the number 6. Trade versus SSF. being solo self-found. Hello again, the full title of this post should be Trade versus SSF. Why not both, but not in the way you think, and sometimes less is more. Some players are merchant princes, creating entire empires on trade. Others are dark wanderers, subsisting off only on what they find themselves in the field. Most people probably lie somewhere in between, freely trading with their mates, but only occasionally dipping their toes in the ocean of the open market. Just like players, the RPGs seem to have unique and differing approaches to trade. You get single-player RPGs, where everyone is self-found by necessity. Games like Diablo IV, which as far as I can see, wishes it were self-found. Damn, burn. Holding its nose at the concept of trade as if it were a necessary but highly distasteful custom that needs to be relegated to behind that extra smelly dumpster in the back alley. Games like Path of Exile, which posits that while trade is a fundamental pillar of the game, there also shouldn't be a clear trade currency and everyone ought to be bartering 2 slapjack globes and 1 boobob crowd for 14 loop slot dials, 3 vish e-shocks and 1 obnob cob, or whatever the current exchange rates are. And games like Last Epoch, which eventually plans on splitting characters into trade, not trade binaries, to satisfy their community, which seems to exist on a wide spectrum with respect to trade, just like the RPG community at large. So, one thing, this is just my personal opinion, I don't like Path of Exile's trading system and multiple currencies. I don't like Diablo 2's currency with the rune words. Like, you have to make conversions, you have to look at spreadsheets, and then you have to barter in different languages. I don't think that's good. I think you should use gold for all transactions. It works in real life. You have money. You don't need to trade a share for or split a share into 2 so you can sell the legs and then get an haircut. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, gold, I think it should be used for trading, a common currency across all. And I think an auction house is the best application of this, an in-game auction house. Like, I don't want to be asking on chat, does anyone want to buy this? Or I want to buy something. I don't think that's efficient. I want a place. Everyone will post their items there with the price, and that's it. The market will self-regulate. You'll be able to find whatever you want, to sell whatever you want, easily and accessible. So I think the auction house is the best option. It works really well in World of Warcraft. I don't see why not, why it can't happen. So if you're here and reading this, you probably have an opinion on trade. Yeah, I just gave it. What you want to know is what is our opinion on it, and it's that compatible with yours. Actually, I think I already answered that question earlier, but maybe not directly. So I'll spell it out a bit more. Starting as always with a set of design tenets. The ability to trade relatively freely is important for a community in a game that's fundamentally about loot. I agree. Possibility of trade usually expands the pool of exciting drops. Yes, because you can farm stuff. You can find really valuable stuff that's not for you, and you can trade it for good stuff for them. So even if you are not finding the item that you want to, you are still progressing towards it because you can find currency or other items that will give the currency necessary to buy it. Itemization first, then trade. If the itemization is bad, you might as well not bother. Agree? Drop rates need to be done primarily for SSF. I think you should have options. I really like what Last Epoch does by boosting drop rates for people that don't trade. I'm not interested, at least in the core game, in solutions where players who choose not to trade get better items. Last Epoch. I think that's a trap that will only leave the SSF side happy, or people figure out how to exploit it anyway. I think people that play SSF should be happy. But yeah, I agree that punishing people that want to trade and not finding the same amount of value that the others that play solo find, it's a little bit meh. But I think that's solved in multiple game modes. So if You can have a server that's only self-found without trade, or everything is bound on equip, or another server it's bound on trade. The first trade bounds the item, or let people experiment with it and see where the community goes. I think the advantage of the game being moddable is to find out what the community how the community likes to play, right? So gives community options to do that. Trade should be relatively smooth. A simple trade currency is a good thing, and I believe a linear hierarchy of currency runes is better than a singular one, SRJ or PGEMs, or a network PoE. Yeah, I don't think runes should be used for trading. I think you should. Well, you could trade anything, right? If you want with your friends or people that you know, but I think it's much easier to sell stuff you don't need and buy the stuff that you need on an auction house. Just do that. Trading can promote the social aspect of the game, but it's far from the primary social driver. There's no need to add friction to trading to try to prop it up as such. Yeah, I don't think the social aspect of spamming a trade chat offering a rare sword is social at all. It's just annoying. For me, at least. I don't want to interact with people to buy stuff. I don't want to interact with people to buy stuff in real life. I buy stuff on the internet. I want my social experiences to be like playing with other players, not selling and buying with them. Bind on drop, pick up, equip, whether to character or to account is appropriate in narrow cases. I think it's appropriate on unique items. Not all uniques. Let me explain. Like items with lore that you find on your quests, like items tied to the quests. So they are unique for you. You can't trade them because you will get them anyway if you play it enough. So I think there should be items that are only achievable by playing the campaign or by making something in game and are not tradable. I think that's reasonable. But I don't think this should be droppable from monsters. I think there should be a deterministic way to find them, those bound items. Even then, except in a small number of very special cases, we should provide ways for players to unbind items with an appropriate resource cost. I don't think so. Don't do that. It's just annoying. Why though? So you buy an item, it's bound to you on equip, then you don't want to use it. Okay, now I need to farm some resource or some gold to be able to trade it. You're just having barriers for players to do what they want to do fast. I don't use this item anymore. I'll put it in the auction house immediately. I don't want to worry about it, to craft it, to not be bound. I don't like that at all. PvP and other competitive game modes amplifies the robustness of trade economy. Yes. One thing that I like is economy on hardcore servers. Like I've been playing hardcore WoW and I love the economy because people are making characters all the time. So there are lots of items for low levels. They are always available. And if you don't have that, if you have a server full of high level players, if you are making a new character and need something to farm level 20 staves or whatever, yeah, you can't find upgrades, and that kind of sucks. So I think economy of hardcore servers are really good. And hardcore with PvP as well. I'm into hardcore now. I really like it, and I think a good game with PvP and hardcore should be fine. Rampant botting can destroy the economy, but to remove the economy to combat botting is to put it mildly as forward as known as backwards. Yeah, I don't think you should design around botting. I think you should deal with botting. You should ban them. You should make software that can identify them really easily and ban them automatically. And know that, and ban everyone that interacted with them. So just make that. If there are bots, ban them and ban whoever interacts with them, whoever traded with them, and whoever traded with who traded, whenever traded with them. Well, that might be tricky, but at least traded directly with the bots. Given all that, I think our approach is pretty evident. Our optimization is a continuation of the concepts we created for Diablo II. This includes stuff like non-class biased drops, extended by some new concepts that I've alluded to before, runes as currency. I don't really like that. Large pool of interesting named uniques that are obtainable solo, target farming, value across all item tiers, support for PvP, etc. Trade is relatively easy, but this time we'll add two-stage confirmation. Am I the only one that finds it shocking that RuneScape has had that for over a decade, but no major ARPG does that? Yeah, I think they all should have two-stage confirmation. You lock the trade, and after it's locked, you check, is this really the item that I want? And then I confirm. Yeah, makes sense. The fact that this game isn't intended to be free to play and impacts botting versus say Lost Ark. It depends on how you will deal with botting. If you ban botters, if you ban bots, yeah, you won't have as many bots in the game. If you don't, then it's the same problem, because they will buy an account, they will farm, they'll sell gold, they will do all the nasty stuff, and they just keep making their money. So I really think Moonbeast should have really hard rules and enforce rules against botting in the game. Otherwise, it's not that being buy to play that will prevent botting. Not at all. There's a lot of botting in Warcraft, World of Warcraft, because they do nothing about it. In addition, the core game design, especially the concept of shards, totally reconfigures the landscape. Markets become much more local. In a personal shard, it's SSF by necessity, unless you're mad, I suppose. Yes. So a personal shard, it will be a private server that only you play. In a private shard, you only trade with others on that shard. That's fine. Taking items from shard to shard is subject to restriction imposed by the administrators of the shards. All of this further helps to reduce the impact of botting, while also giving players tools to combat botting themselves. Yeah, I guess on the private servers, the private server admins are the ones that need combat botting, but I think Moonbeast should give the appropriate software for them to be able to identify them. And on official servers, I think they must be responsible for combat botting. The gameplay itself, which combines highly granular procedural levels with elevation, multiple interactive environments, and map-wide strategic elements, all work against bots. Yeah, that's true. If the maps are really difficult to navigate by a predefined map, predefined set of actions, I think it will be difficult. But I really think Moonbeast should invest in ways to detect them and punish them. Lastly, remembers player-owned vendors from Ultima Online, so much fun. I never played Ultima Online, but I played Ragnarok Online, and one of the things that I most liked about that game's economy was that you could make a merchant class, and you stationed your merchant in a city, you opened up a shop, and you would sell your items there. So people who had like a big avenue with shoppers all around, one selling potions, others selling swords, others selling jewelry. It was incredible because you were like in a market and people would have their characters there. They would leave their games open during the night to sell their stuff. I don't think you should have to keep your game open. I think you should be able to set a shop somewhere and then turn off the game and it will sell offline, of course. So we went through all the itemization posts. That was a deep dive into it.